What is up, my friends? You are very welcome along to Sunday evening's Anfield Agenda News Roundup, where today we're going to take you through the fallout from yesterday's shambolic 3-0 loss at home to Nottingham Forest, a result that piles more pressure on the shoulders of not just Arne Slot, but of course those Liverpool players. We're going to focus on what some of the players in the media have had to say. I'll give you my take on it, and of course, I want to know your thoughts, so do let us know in the comment section. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Tonight, we've got two things coming on. I'll be live at 8:30 with the Late Night Agenda, and then at 10:45 PM, the latest edition of the Anfield Agenda podcast will be out right here on YouTube and on Spotify. Please do check it out if you get the time. Myself, Connor and Chris are going to discuss, well, everything that you expect. Right, for now, let's get cracking with the news. And Steve Nicol, who never really has anything upbeat or positive to say, does he? But he has a different angle this time, and I wanted to just get your thoughts on it, because it isn't something that's been discussed too much, certainly not from us. So he said, there's one guy who has escaped criticism so far, Ryan Gravenberch. His main job is to be that block, the guy in front of the back four who orders the other two around, lets them go forward, and they can fill in behind and cover the holes. He's done that, none of that this year. I know he's missed a couple of games, but he's absolutely done none of that. Now, why I find this interesting is, I think if you go back to the Newcastle game, Ryan Gravenberch after the game said that his role has evolved from last season, and he has been given more licence to get forward this year. At the time, it worried me because it doesn't make much sense, your number 6 getting licensed to roam forward. But maybe it was part of the problem. Maybe this is another thing that we can discuss. So do let me know if you agree with Steve Nicol on that, because in my view, it is kind of the role of the 6 to be that block in front of the back four. But if he's doing what he's doing under instruction, then that, of course, would lie at the feet of the manager. Gary Neville, speaking about Liverpool's form, and look, we all know Gary Neville will take absolutely every chance possible to stick the boot in, and that's his job, I guess. But he said, I'm sorry, but how can Liverpool spend this much and still look this lost? You bring in players with the quality of Alexander Isak, and you're still collapsing in games like this. At some point, you need to start admitting the standards at the club have dropped massively, and it looks like the new signings make zero impact. He's not wrong. And I've said this over and over again. Everybody in interviews talks about standards. They talk about them on the training ground. They talk about them in the action. They talk about them on the pitch, but they're not living to them. And I've been saying this for a very, very long time. You either have standards at the club or you don't. Now, Virgil, to be fair, his tone has started to change, particularly after yesterday's defeat. And I'm going to run you through some of what he's had to say, because I'm refreshed to hear this from Virgil. I've told you guys about Andy Robertson's interviews and how I appreciate the sincerity and the blunt nature of them. Well, Virg feels like things are changing for him as well. So this is what he said about the manager. In terms of letting him down, we're definitely letting him down, but we've let ourselves down as well. You look at yourself first, and then you help each other. You help each other get out of this mess, because at the moment, it is a mess. That's just a fact. It is a mess. He sees it, you see it, I see it, the football world sees it. The question is, why? And how did we get here? We've gone from winning the league, and as Neville said, going out there and bringing in top quality players. How on earth are we at the position where everybody looks lost out there? Honestly, it can only come down to one thing for me, the manager. Yes, there are players whose individual performances are nowhere near good enough, and I don't think any of us are going to debate that. But ultimately, the manager sets the tone, the manager sets the tactics, and the manager picks the team. So if he's not seeing players perform, and he's just playing them over and over again, where's the accountability? And this is one word, accountability, that I've been harping on about for a long time with Arne. Chris Bascom has said this, and again, you know, Chris has his finger on the pulse of all things Liverpool. He's a fine journalist, and this is what he's had to say about the striker situation. He said, the striker Isak replaced, Darwin Núñez, was castigated for vastly superior performances than this. Núñez lacked general poise and finesse, but flawed as he was, you could never take your eyes off him. You would have struggled to notice Isak was on the pitch on Saturday until his number was up. I am absolutely astonished that Federico Chiesa isn't getting more minutes, but I think we know why. But I was even more astonished yesterday to see that Hugo Ekitike's name was not in the starting 11. I don't understand it. If you want to play Isak, fine, but you've got to have Ekitike on there as well, because he actually plays like he gives a damn. I was so shocked to see Isak starting that game yesterday. And I don't really know what to do about the Isak situation, because I fully understand that he isn't up to speed and in a rhythm yet, but we look so lost when he is on the pitch. We don't look like we have a plan or an understanding of how to get the ball to him and get him into the areas where he can do damage. So, Darwin Núñez, well, let's not revisit here. His finishing was appalling, and we were all deciding that it is time for him to move. But what Chris Bascom said is right, and, credit where it's due. He did work hard. He never wasn't a handful for defenders. Same with Luis Diaz. So we are certainly missing that battle-hardened player up top who can occupy defenders, and again, I suppose a bit of physicality as well. So Virgil van Dijk, via Andy Hunter of The Guardian and Credit Anfield Sector, who posted this, he said, Virgil van Dijk usually speaks with the media after a game as part of his duties as Liverpool captain. Saturday was different, however. His voice was much louder, so loud that any teammate in the Anfield tunnel could hear him, and he shook with anger while challenging the dressing room to respond. You should be angry, he insisted. The main thing for me is that everybody has to take responsibility. Asked whether this is happening or why this is happening, Van Dijk said, I don't know whether people are taking accountability. But if you have to do that, it's the main thing I want the boys to do. It's not easy during difficult times, but we have to do it if we want to get out of this. So again, look, I understand Virgie saying the right things, but we need to see it. And he knows that. He doesn't need me to tell him. We need to see it out there on the pitch. This is a particularly damning stat, though, from a gentleman called Who Was Greg on X. Now, I don't have the full context of the number of games involved in this, but what he writes basically is that Liverpool have won 75% of their Premier League games when Hugo Ekitike has started, compared to, are you ready for this? Zero when he hasn't started. That's why I was saying yesterday and repeating today, I was absolutely astonished that Hugo Ekitike was not in that starting 11. It just made no sense to me. You've got a player who has shown good form since he's come in, a player who is doing the hard work, a player who is a little bit different and can provide a spark, and he was on the bench. It absolutely astonishes me. Of all the players we're saying about holding accountable, let's say Salah, Van Dijk, Kanade, you've got Ekitike there who is doing what we want, and you're benching him. It just makes no sense. Virgil van Dijk said, Wednesday is another game, so what am I going to do? Go home and cry? No, I'm going to go home, try to think of how we can turn this around, and hopefully that is what everybody is doing as well. For me, I'm at the point now where I do think it's time for Arna to go. I said it yesterday, I take absolutely zero pleasure in it, but yesterday was a performance of a team who aren't listening to the manager, aren't fearful of the manager, and the manager is not getting through to those players. That is where I'm at with it. I fully understand and appreciate if others have a different view on it. I'm not going to be toxic about this. I'm not going to bang on for weeks and months about wanting Arna out. If the club decide that he has to see out the season, or the club decide to keep going behind him, like every other Liverpool fan, I'll show up here every match day hoping for the best and wanting the boys to win. But I'm not going to sit here and not say what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like the manager's ran his course. I take no pleasure in it, as I've said, but he just isn't cutting the mustard at the minute. And we are 11th, bottom half of the Premier League table as defending champions who spent £450 million. A -2 goal difference. A -2. 17 goals conceded over our recent games. It's just not good enough. And also, back-to-back 3-0 defeats. The first time, I think, in 80 or 90 years since that's happened. I can't remember the exact date. All of these records are unacceptable, and any one of them on their own could be a case for a manager to be fired. We either have standards at this football club or we don't, and Arne Slot is not hitting those standards. How long you let this go for? That's up to you if you're FSG. Do you think there's nobody out there we can bring in so we keep going? My argument would be no, because you've got to stop the rot. If you bring in an interim manager, whoever that may be, to hold the ship, steady the ship for a little while, at least he might be able to motivate those players and get us back to winning ways. But this is only going to get worse, in my opinion. There may be a couple of wins. This game coming up against PSV Eindhoven, any incarnation of Liverpool at home in the Champions League should go out there and put them to the sword. So, for me, that's a given that game should be won on Wednesday. But it won't change my opinion one jot, because in the Premier League we have lost 6 from 7. It has gone backwards and it's just not good enough. So, over to you. I'll be here tonight at 8:30 for the late night agenda. I know the subject I spoke about today, the manager, the players, this isn't anything we want to talk about, but it is something that we have to deal with, we have to speak about, and we have to be honest on. So that's where I'm at. Over to you to let me know your thoughts. I'll see you back here tonight at 8:30. Podcast coming out later as well. Appreciate your support as always. We'll talk soon. Take care.